Hello, Holistic Chamber of Commerce family. Welcome to today's Member Spotlight segment. I have Jeannette Paxia with me, and she's going to talk about living life to the fullest. A little bit about Jeannette. She's a two-time #1 international best-selling author, sought-after speaker and coach for adults and children. She achieves her goals through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking, and writing. Welcome, Jeannette.
Thank you very much for having me today. I'm so excited to be a part of HCC in general, and I'm excited to be here today.
Wonderful. So let's just jumpstart this conversation. Kind of how did you come to discover your own soul purpose? Like, how did you get to living your own life to the fullest?
I would say through tragedy, which I think a lot of times tragedy does propel us to figure out what we want to do. So I've been in the medical world for over 25 years. Actually, I'm a nurse. And I had been working with fixing disease or helping patients fix disease after the fact. I had my mom got sick, and none of us knew she was sick. And it was a quick month before she passed. And when she passed, I had this moment. I was in the church, standing behind the casket. The priest was waiting for, to tell us when it was okay to start walking. And I looked up. I had been crying for days. And I looked up, and there was standing room only in the church. And I realized at that moment, my mom helped so many people, but she was very quiet about it. And I realized that I had two roads to choose. I could either sit there and just bathe myself in sorrow, or I could do something that she would have done and move forward in a way to help people. So at that moment, I made the decision that yes, I would be sad and I would acknowledge it and I would move on to help other people. So I started with myself. I shed over 85 pounds. I changed my mindset. It starts with mindset. Changed my mindset, the people that I hung out with. I mean, I just really looked at everything in my life and felt what needed to be changed. And I did that. I changed it. And from there, I thought, well, I want to help other people do this. So I started as a national board certified health and wellness coach. Again, starts with mindset. And I started looking back at my life and the times in my life when I had the most challenges. And the one that kept coming up for me was when I was bullied. I was bullied for 3 years as a child. And it was a horrible experience for me. Bullying is such a problem. Actually, 1 in 5 children are bullied. And I love helping adults, and I still do help adults, but I realized I wanted to empower children. So I created a program from that, all from going back to this moment, this defining moment in my life with my mom.
That's amazing. And it's amazing too that, so many people go through their life just like running through the motions until
Mhm.
something does happen. And then it's like, oh crap, what am I doing with my life? And is this what is most important to me? It's like we expect that like that or that wake up call is what, triggers, hey, what am I doing with my life? So I
So,
really,
yes.
appreciate that concept. And, bullying, it starts with children. But if you think about it in our society, so many adults are bullies. We get
Yes.
bullied as adults. And I feel like, a lot of these concepts that you're probably teaching can probably translate to adult life as well.
Absolutely. Later on, I was actually bullied as an adult at work. And I spoke at HCC last week, our local chapter, and that's what I talk about. I talk about not only can we bullied as children, but as adults. So how do you build that solid foundation for success? Um, I talk a lot about as adults, we have cracks in our foundation, and I want to help you find the beauty in those cracks and use that to move forward. Because those cracks in our foundation are our stories, the things that have happened to us. And like you said, things happen. You're going along, you think everything's great, and you have this great attitude, and in a second, things change. So how are we present to what's happening right now? And how do we handle those challenges? Because we know they're going to come. So how do we prepare ourselves to handle those? So working with both as I was working with children, the teachers and the adults, the parents would come up to me and say, I learned from what you were saying too. So definitely what I talk about affects everybody and helps everybody. And that's my goal, is just to make bring people to the realization of how they can help themselves and what they can do to better themselves and just live life a little happier.
Is there something you can share with us? Maybe like a tip or something that you give people when you work from, I know you can't like teach everything to us right now, but
Right.
is there something that you can give us to help us kind of understand what this kind of work looks like?
Um, the, a tip. I would say that when I talk to people, I would say one of the most important things is pause before you do anything. Pause before you eat. Pause before you speak. We're so wrapped up in an immediate responses that sometimes we say things that we would not have said if we'd paused. So what my work looks like is different. What people take in is what they need at the moment, but it's building self-confidence so that you can protect yourself. It's like an armor from being bullied, because if you have that self-confidence is there, then you're not going to bully others, and you're probably not going to allow yourself to be bullied. But always pausing before we speak so that you know that what you're saying is really what you want to say.
Are there multiple facets to living life to the fullest? Like, you talk about, confidence, having that first, starting with that bullying segment and really maybe standing in your own power. But are there like other things that you incorporate into this? Because living life to your fullest, it means a lot. I mean, it's a very, very broad umbrella.
I believe that we all have what I call your superhero traits, which some people would call their soul purpose. And I believe that if you figure out what makes you happy and do that, whether it's 1 hour a week or 40 hours a week, and use that to serve others, that we can all connect to our superhero traits or our soul purpose. And in that, you'll be happier and you'll live life to the fullest because you're doing what you came here to do or what you were born to do. And it aligns with your values, it aligns with just making you happier overall. My hope is that everybody can connect to their superhero traits, even if it's just a little bit every week.
Do you find that a lot of people are disconnected from that, like what their, purpose is, even what it is that they do well? Do you find that there's like this disconnect for many?
I think that people know deep down inside what they do well and what makes them happy, but a lot of times we let other people dictate what we should be doing. Well, my father was an attorney, and so he sent me to school to be an attorney. So I'm going to go ahead and be an attorney because that's what my father wants me to do. When deep down inside, you would rather be an artist. It's kind of buried down there. So I definitely think there's a disconnect. I think that a lot of times we get caught up in success and we tie that to money, how much money you make and how big is your house and how many cars do you drive, instead of being successful by what's making you happy and the people around you happy. Because think about it, if you are miserable at your job, you're probably going to be miserable at home. You're going to be miserable in general. You're going to drive crazy or just not be happy anywhere. And then that you're carrying around that negative attitude. So definitely we are disconnected because we do what other people think we should be doing. Not everybody, not always, but often that's the case. Or you do what you think is going to make the most money. And I don't think making the most money is what makes you happy. There's a quote that do what you love and the money will follow.
Right. Yeah. And I've learned from experience that sometimes what we happen to be good at isn't necessarily what fulfills us. Um,
Definitely. Yes,
you
I
know,
agree.
it's like we
Mhm.
can have skills, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's really part of our life purpose. It's just like, hey, this is just a skill set that happens to come, easy to you.
I agree with that. And like I said, doesn't mean that you have to work in your sole purpose. Maybe you are good at something and that still serves people and serves what your needs, but it's not your sole purpose. It's your reason for being here. So I think they don't, a lot of times people believe that they have to do that for their career, and it's great if you can, but that doesn't mean you have to. At least you're doing something that makes you happy part of the time. And then hopefully that happiness will spill over in the stuff that you're good at that you're doing, right?
Yeah. So let's say someone is watching this and they're like, how do I know if I'm living my life to the fullest or my life, my purpose? What are some like complaints and symptoms that you see people present with when they aren't in that space?
You can have physical signs, stress, headaches, stomach aches, because if you're internalizing and you're not aligning with your values because you're not doing what you came here to do or feel like you should be doing, then you can have physical signs like that, and stress, and generally angry, generally unhappy. If you're coming home every day, and I'm not saying drinking a glass of wine is bad, but if you're coming home every day and the first thing you need to do is grab wine because you were so stressed out and you hated your day so much, that's probably an indicator that you're not living life to the fullest or you're not enjoying. Some people eat because of it, right? So you may overeat because at that moment you can control that and it makes you happier. So just taking a moment to look at your life and stopping in what you're doing and thinking, am I happy? Does this make me happy? Am I fulfilled? Is my life fulfilled? And it doesn't mean that you can drink from a water hose, right? You have to, or fire hose. You might have to start small and figuring out and just slowly change. You know, we can't make a lot of big changes at once. It usually doesn't stick for most of us. So it's figuring out what you're doing in your life. You can reflect, you know, deep down inside, I think people know what's working and what's not.
Mm-hmm. I know for myself when I dreaded Mondays and when I got like super frustrated with the clientele I was serving, I was like, I think something's amiss here.
Mm-hmm. We just don't admit it to ourselves often. And I always say it's funny because I just put a post on Facebook, Marvelous Monday. I feel like Monday is a day of opportunities and it's changing your mindset and how you look at it. Most people are like, I hate Mondays, especially if you hate your job and you're going there every day just dreading. That's a big sign right there. If you are dreading going someplace, horribly dreading it every time, you might want to stop and look at what you're doing. But I think Mondays are great opportunities for a new week.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Thanks, Frances, for joining us. She finds this topic interesting. So I think most of us do. Most of us want to, live life to the fullest and live our purpose and
Definitely.
be really fulfilled in our work in the world. So this is a wonderful topic. I know you do a lot of coaching with people and you work with children. What do your programs look like? Is it usually like, you're working with people for several months at a time? Is it in person? Is it online? Is it just like one-off?
Most of my programs start with speaking. So I'll speak at a school like in an assembly or I'll go into a classroom in addition to my books, which support that. And it's called Connect to Your Inner Superhero. Again, working with both children and adults, so even the teachers. From that, I can do parent coaching, coach children in groups. Children like to be with other children. And then I also have a self-confidence program for teachers to help support them in the classroom. So that follows the speaking, so that they can use this topic in order to help build self-confidence. Because really, I mean, the speaking event is great and people are going to take a percentage of that and apply it to their lives, but you need that support going further, and being there so that they can turn back to it and remember, okay, yeah, that's what Jeannette said when she was here. What can we do now in the classroom to support that? Parent coaching, because I believe we all, as parents, we want to do the best we can, but there's times in your life where it's hard and you kind of need that extra support. You may have a question. I have 5 kids in a blended family. 3 are in college, 2 are 14 because of the blended family. And so I've been through most stages. I've seen the different stages and the stressors in it. So how can we support each other as parents? And my program is called Connect to Your Inner Superhero. So I do dress as Wonder Woman, which is fun. The kids love it, and actually adults like it too. The teenagers, I have to usually not dress because they're like looking at each other like, this crazy lady up here who's dressed as Wonder Woman. What is she doing? But the younger kids and the adults love it. Because I think we all have that inner superhero inside of us. And even if you don't walk around wearing a cape, we do have our superhero traits and those things that make us a superhero in our own way.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that about teens because like nothing is cool like to teenagers. It's like that stage where nothing is better than like just their sense of me, and I teens. Oh, like you mentioned them, and like my head starts to spin.
We have 4 boys and a girl, and the 14-year-olds, one's a girl and one's a boy. It's very interesting in the differences of them, and definitely at a time where I need to walk behind them or in front of them, so it doesn't look like I'm actually with them. So they are embarrassed on a lot of things, and watching Wonder Woman on stage is not one of the things that they're going to think is cool. I'm sure cool is not the word anymore, but um,
So, do you travel to like schools outside your area? Because if someone's watching this and they have like connections with a school or an organization that serves children, are you, do you go to wherever?
definitely I speak internationally. Actually, I travel a lot. And I speak at camps, churches, schools, and then in women's functions or adult functions too, because I want to help them find their superhero powers too. Teachers events, anything that has anything to do with kids, but in general too. Like I said, I spoke at HCC in our local chapter last week, and there wasn't any kids there, but I can tailor it to the adults or the children in the room, depending. And internationally, I just got back 2 days ago from a trip. I was on at Christmas time 14 planes.
Wow.
Lots of speaking events during that time, surprisingly. And I was on the show called The Great American Speak Off. So it's like the American Idol for speakers. So we were in Miami, and then we were in Phoenix. So we were kind of traveling around.
Wow. Sounds fabulous. If you love speaking, we were talking about that, how some people are terrified to speak, but
I love it.
you're definitely in your element. And I appreciate that you speak, then you also provide support materials because like you said, we can hear a message, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're actually practicing that message, or we're practicing the tools that we need to practice in order to get to where we want to be. So I really appreciate that. So if someone is interested in having you speak, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Innersuperhero.org. That's my speaking page. So they can go on, they can book an appointment with me, they can see my video.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the comments here. Francis says, love life. It gets better all the time. It has stumbling blocks. Oh, definitely stumbling blocks, but she's resonating with what you're saying. So
makes you stronger or more resilient, as one of my friends says. She says, you become more resilient.
I agree. And if we can make meaning, and I think that's just kind of like the human natural tendency, we want to create meaning from our negative experiences. But I think that helps us so much because when we can change our mindset around, what this happened and it was horrible, but, this is how I grew from it. This is, not to justify any horrible event or trauma or anything, but we can certainly, create that meaning from our experiences and learn how to move past and to grow and become more resilient.
I like that, create meaning. I mean, it happens for you, not to you. Now, often that is hard to think about, especially in the moment. I mean, some horrible things happen. One of my good friends is going through a horrible thing right now, and I'm not saying anybody wants that, but what can you do to use that to move forward and help others?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just like inner strength too. We learn a lot about ourselves and what we can handle. And I think sometimes we can handle more than we think we can.
Yes, that's that resiliency.
Yeah.
I think things happen in our life to make us prepare for these other things that are going to happen.
Right. And it is a tough topic because people have, experienced significant trauma like abuse, assault. It's really hard to, grasp how am I creating meaning from this horrible act of violence, but it can be done, and that's how people heal.
Definitely. And it's not easy, I know.
Mm-hmm. You also have a freebie for people. Tell us about that.
So for parents, how to create open communication, because if your child is, and actually this could be for anybody, not just for parents, but if your child is being bullied, you want to know that and you want to create that open communication ahead of time. if they're having mental health issues. So there's a lot of reasons you want to create open communication, but again, it can be used for everybody. And you can get that. It's completely free at innersuperhero.me.
Wonderful. I put both of your website links in the chat. So if you're watching this either live or down the road, and you want to get in contact with Jeannette, here's a couple resources for you. Reach out, to give her a call. She'll come to your city
Happily.
and talk to the children in the community. Thank you so much, Jeannette, for being here and for
Thank you,
sharing
Laura.
what it is that you do for people. We really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.